Most men carry a quiet, heavy burden of frustration because they assume rejection always means the exact same thing. She simply is not attracted to you. You walk away replaying the interaction in your head, thinking your face is wrong, your height is wrong, or your status is not high enough. But that belief is completely false, and holding on to it keeps you trapped in a cycle of endless frustration. The brutal truth you need to accept right now is that you are not getting rejected because of who you are. You are getting rejected because of how you act and how you ask. When you are out with a woman and you feel a spark, a dangerous internal countdown starts ticking in your head. Panic sets in, and instead of letting the connection breathe, you start forcing the pace. You lean in too aggressively, you steer every conversation toward a sexual outcome, or you flat out demand an answer before the foundation is even laid. You push, you rush, and without even realizing it, you surround her with a thick, suffocating wall of heavy pressure. You turn a relaxed interaction into a high-stakes interview where she feels cornered. And the moment a woman feels cornered, her primal survival instinct takes over. Her body immediately tells her to pull away, put up a cold wall, and escape the discomfort. Think about the last time a persistent salesperson cornered you in a store or hounded you on the phone. Even if you actually liked the product they were selling, the sheer aggression of their pitch made you want to run in the opposite direction. You put your guard up because nobody likes to be manipulated, cornered, or forced into a corner. Female attraction operates on the exact same universal law. It is a fragile, delicate thing that cannot survive in a pressure cooker. It requires an environment of absolute safety, emotional alignment, and natural flow. The second you introduce force, desperation, or urgency, you instantly kill the very spark you are trying desperately to ignite. Let us completely strip away the sugarcoating and look at what is actually happening inside your head during these moments. Most men walk around believing they have a deep-seated fear of intimacy, imagining themselves as awkward or unworthy of closeness. But that is a complete lie. You do not fear the actual warmth, the physical closeness, or the connection itself. What is genuinely terrifying to you is the exact moment right before it fails. That gut-wrenching second when you make a move, she physically pulls back, her expression turns ice cold, and the entire vibe dies a painful death. You are terrified of the awkward silence, the embarrassment, and the crushing weight of feeling like you messed everything up. That exact fear makes you tense up, overthink every single word, and act in ways that practically guarantee rejection. To fix this once and for all, you have to understand a fundamental truth about how women operate. Women do not actually reject intimacy. In fact, deep down, they crave closeness, safety, and passion just as much as you do. What they violently reject is the heavy emotional attachment, the unspoken demands, and the suffocating pressure that clumsy men attach to it. When you approach a woman like a desperate salesman trying to close a deal, you make her feel like saying yes to you means surrendering her freedom, taking on your emotional baggage, and walking straight into a trap. She senses the hidden strings attached to your actions, and her defense mechanisms immediately slam shut. This is why the difference between getting rejected and having her lean in comes down to one single word: force. The moment an interaction feels forced, rushed, or heavy, her brain sounds the alarm bells, and her answer becomes an absolute, unyielding no. She stops listening to your words and starts focusing entirely on how to get away from you. But when you completely remove the pressure, when you stop treating closeness like a target you have to hunt down, the entire dynamic shifts on its axis. Without the weight of your expectations bearing down on her, she can finally relax. She stops defending herself and starts looking at you with genuine curiosity. And when the atmosphere becomes completely natural, she does not need to be convinced, persuaded, or pushed. She naturally leans in, closes the remaining distance, and invites you closer on her own terms. If you want to stop getting trapped in endless rejections, you have to accept a biological and psychological reality that most men completely fail to grasp. For men, attraction works like a light switch. It is instant, visual, and entirely upfront. You can look at a woman across a room for 2 seconds, register her appearance, and feel your body instantly respond with immediate desire. Because your brain is hardwired this way, you naturally assume women operate on the exact same fast-moving timeline. You think that if she does not want you right this second, she never will. But that assumption is completely wrong, and it is the exact reason you end up rushing moments that require patience. For women, attraction does not work like a light switch at all. It works like a slow-burning fire that requires kindling, oxygen, and time. Female desire is layered, complex, and cumulative. It does not spark from a single visual trigger. Instead, it builds brick by brick through a combination of context, emotion, safety, and anticipation. She needs to see how you handle stress, how you treat other people, how you respect her boundaries, and how comfortable you are in your own skin. Her brain is constantly scanning the environment for safety cues before it will even allow her body to experience romantic or physical interest. This is precisely why a woman can meet you on a Monday, feel completely neutral toward you, and view you as nothing more than an ordinary acquaintance. Yet, if you play your cards right and understand how her mind works, that same exact woman can find herself completely captivated, obsessed, and drawn to you 3 weeks later. It is not because she was playing games or leading you on. It is simply because her attraction required the proper time and environment to safely develop through real emotional experiences. When this profound truth finally clicks in your brain, it changes your entire approach to dating and connection. You instantly stop rushing. You stop trying to force quick outcomes, and you stop panicking when a woman does not fall into your arms on the first night. Instead, you relax into your masculine power and start focusing on what actually matters, building the right conditions, letting her guard drop naturally, and allowing her desire to accumulate on its own terms. Trick 1. Never ask directly. The biggest fatal flaw you can make when dealing with women is walking up to the finish line and treating intimacy like a contract you need her to sign. When you ask a woman directly for a physical escalation or a move to the next level, using blunt, clumsy phrases like, "Do you want to come back to my place?" or "Should we take this further?" you instantly trigger a massive psychological wall. Why? Because a direct question forces her conscious mind into a defensive corner. It turns a natural human interaction into an awkward, high-pressure business transaction. In that exact fraction of a second, her brain stops feeling the vibe and starts frantically calculating the risks. She begins asking herself defensive questions. What will he think of me if I say yes? Will he judge me if I say no? Am I moving too fast? That sudden flood of analytical doubt is where attraction goes to die, and it almost always ends with a cold, defensive rejection just to make the uncomfortable pressure go away. To completely bypass this resistance, you must throw out direct requests and instead master the art of the emotional invitation. An invitation does not back her into a corner. It leaves the door wide open. It speaks directly to her subconscious mind by setting a mood, creating a feeling, and letting her imagination do the heavy lifting. When you use subtle, low-pressure cues, you completely remove the feeling of being hunted or cornered. She no longer feels like she is submitting to your demand. Instead, she feels like she is following her own impulses and making her own free choice. Human psychology is simple at its core. When a person feels like a decision belongs entirely to them, the urge to resist disappears. By framing your interactions as an invitation rather than a demand, you hand her the steering wheel while remaining the calm, grounded driver of the experience, making her rejection virtually impossible. Trick 2. Master the 3 emotional switches. Before a woman's brain will ever give her body the green light to embrace intimacy, 3 non-negotiable psychological switches have to flip inside her mind: safety, trust, and anticipation. If even one of these 3 switches is turned off or jammed, she will instinctively lock her doors and hold back, no matter how physically attractive you might be. Most men are utterly oblivious to this invisible control panel, frantically trying to be funny, wealthy, or overly impressive, while completely ignoring the fundamental foundation that allows attraction to actually convert into action. The first switch is safety, which does not mean she needs to know your life story for 5 years. It means she feels absolute confidence that you will not judge her, mock her, corner her, or make her feel foolish for her choices. Safety is communicated entirely through your steady, unwavering emotional stability. The second switch is trust, which is built when your daily actions effortlessly match your spoken words. If you tell her you are in no rush and your body language genuinely proves you are unbothered by outcomes, her guard drops because she sees you respect her boundaries without sulking or punishing her for having them. The third switch is the electric magic of anticipation. Anticipation is the delicious, crackling tension built entirely through restraint, pause, and the comfortable space left lingering between what is happening right now and what could potentially happen next. When you stop begging, forcing, or rushing, and instead intentionally master these three psychological switches, you stop playing the role of a desperate supplicant and start becoming an architect of natural, irresistible desire. Trick 3. Use the soft withdrawal effect. When a room is charged with chemistry and you are sitting close to a woman, your natural instinct as a man is to lean in closer, touch her more, and force the physical escalation. But that exact knee-jerk reaction is precisely what ruins the moment, because moving in too fast signals desperation and overwhelms her nervous system with sudden pressure. To break this cycle and use a powerful layer of dark psychology, you need to execute the exact opposite move, the soft withdrawal effect. Instead of constantly leaning in and crowding her space, you calmly, smoothly, and deliberately lean out just a fraction of an inch. This is not about playing manipulative games, acting cold, or punishing her. It is about demonstrating supreme comfort with connection, while making it crystal clear that you are not desperate or dependent on the outcome. The moment you create that tiny, subtle pocket of physical and emotional space, the heavy pressure in the air instantly evaporates. And in the sudden absence of that pressure, a fascinating psychological shift takes place inside her mind. Without your weight pushing down on her, her own internal desires rush in to fill the vacuum. She suddenly wonders why you paused, questions if you are pulling away, and feels a spike of curiosity. Driven by that sudden intrigue and the sudden absence of pressure, her own body takes the initiative. She starts leaning back in, closing the distance herself, and chasing the connection you just casually set down. You stopped chasing, and by doing so, you made her want to chase you. Trick 4. Plant the thought with subtle statements. When you want to guide a woman toward intimacy, the worst thing you can do is issue direct instructions or demand that she acknowledge your intentions. Women do not respond well to logic or direct interrogation when it comes to romance. They respond entirely to emotional alignment. Instead of telling her what you want or trying to script her reactions, your secret weapon is to give her the exact words to describe a feeling that is already bubbling up inside her subconscious. You use soft, low-pressure, emotionally suggestive statements that slip past her defense systems without triggering a single alarm bell. Imagine you are sitting close to her, the conversation is flowing nicely, and instead of making a clumsy move, you look at her with steady eyes and casually say something like, "I really like the way our energy feels together right now," or, "It is honestly surprising how easy it is to just sit here and be close to you." Notice what you are not doing here. You are not asking her a question, you are not demanding a physical concession, and you are not putting her on the spot. You are simply holding up a mirror to the atmosphere and articulating a vibe that is already hanging in the air between you. Psychologically, this taps into a powerful concept known as priming. When you casually drop words like energy, closeness, comfort, and natural into the conversation, you give her mind a framework to interpret the entire interaction. You are not tricking her or manipulating her into feeling something she hates. You are simply putting words to a sensation she is already experiencing, but hasn't yet figured out how to express. When you articulate her own unspoken emotions back to her with absolute casual confidence, her brain experiences a rush of validation. She thinks to herself, "Yes, exactly. That is what I am feeling too." That sudden realization creates an instant, magnetic alignment, turning a standard conversation into a deeply intimate connection, because the thought originated from her own emotional reality. Trick 5. Hold unshakable masculine calm. If you want a woman to drop her defenses and lean into intimacy, you must understand a fundamental law of emotional polarity. A woman cannot possibly step into her natural feminine softness if you are vibrating with nervous energy, acting overly sexual, or sweating bullets waiting for her approval. If you are constantly fidgeting, overanalyzing her expressions, or looking for validation to soothe your own ego, you project an anxious, frantic energy. That tension forces her out of her feminine state and immediately pushes her into a protective, hyper-vigilant masculine mode, where she feels like she has to manage your emotions and protect herself. Your primary job in any high-stakes interaction is to anchor the environment by holding absolute, unshakable masculine calm. This does not mean you have to act like a cold, emotionless robot or a stone statue. Masculine calm is the grounded, magnetic energy of a man who is entirely present in his physical body, completely unhurried by the clock, and fundamentally indifferent to immediate outcomes. It is the massive energetic difference between a needy guy who constantly asks nervous validation questions like, "Is this okay? Do you like this? Should I do more?" And a grounded man who is simply enjoying the present moment, completely comfortable letting things unfold naturally without forcing a single second. Women possess an almost supernatural radar for energy. They can instantly feel when a man is desperate, when he is trying too hard to impress, and when his internal engine is spinning out of control from anxiety. But when you maintain a deep, unshakable calmness, when you move slowly, speak deliberately, and look at her without a trace of desperation in your eyes, something incredible happens. Your stability acts as an anchor. Her nervous system senses your absolute safety, her protective walls crumble away, and she effortlessly surrenders into her feminine energy. And when a woman feels safe enough to soften in your presence, saying yes to intimacy stops feeling like a terrifying risk and starts feeling like the most natural, effortless thing in the world. Trick 6. Ask for a feeling, not a yes. The moment a man decides to take an interaction to the next level, he almost always ruins his own chances by committing a fatal psychological error. He asks a direct question that demands a binary yes or no answer. He looks right at her and drops a heavy, loaded question like, "Do you want to come back to my place?" Or, "Should we take things further?" The second those words leave his mouth, he traps her in a mental prison. A direct question forces her conscious mind to immediately panic and weigh the consequences. She starts frantically calculating. What will he think of me if I say yes? Will he think I am easy? What if I say no, make things awkward, and ruin the entire night? Am I actually ready for this? That overwhelming flood of doubt and social anxiety is where attraction goes to die. Because a direct request feels like an interrogation, her defense mechanisms kick into high gear, and she gives you a knee-jerk rejection simply to escape the suffocating pressure. To completely eliminate this risk, you must completely stop asking for a yes and instead learn to ask for a feeling, handing her total emotional control. You replace those clumsy, heavy questions with low-pressure inquiries that focus entirely on her current state of comfort. Instead of pushing for a decision, you look at her and say something smooth and relaxed like, "Does this feel too fast for you?" Or, "Are you feeling comfortable hanging out here with me right now?" Look at the massive psychological shift happening in that exact second. You are no longer backing her into a corner or asking her to accept or reject you as a person. Instead, you are giving her complete safety and absolute control, inviting her to simply check in with her own internal physical and emotional state. When a woman realizes she is not being hunted, pressured, or cornered, her entire nervous system instantly relaxes. She only has to answer one simple, honest question. How do I actually feel right now? And here is the absolute magic of this technique. Even if she hesitates and honestly replies that things feel a little bit fast, you have not suffered a rejection at all. You have simply been handed valuable, stress-free information. You can respond with total, unshakable grace by saying, "That is totally fine. I am not trying to rush anything at all. I am just really enjoying sitting here talking to you." When you react with zero frustration, zero defensiveness, and total calm, she feels deeply heard, respected, and safe. And because you completely stripped away every ounce of pressure, that exact display of supreme maturity often causes her to relax so deeply that she ends up initiating the escalation herself just a few minutes later. Trick 7. Mirror her energy and acknowledge the moment. When you reach the final stages of an interaction, the worst thing you can do is break character, panic, or try to force a robotic, mechanical script. Instead, you must become a master of calibration by paying close attention to her physical and emotional cues and precisely mirroring her exact energy. Human beings are hardwired for connection through mirroring, a deep psychological mechanism that goes all the way back to infancy, when a baby smiles and a parent smiles back, instantly communicating safety and understanding. That exact same primal wiring is completely active in adult attraction. If she leans in a fraction of an inch, you lean in. If she playfully touches your arm or holds your eye contact for 3 long seconds, you match it precisely. Not more, not less. When you mirror her energy with surgical precision, you send a powerful, unspoken subconscious message straight to her brain. We are on the exact same wavelength, breathing the same air and sharing the same rhythm. This synchronization creates an intoxicating magnetic alignment that makes intimacy feel completely natural instead of forced. But you cannot stop there. You have to close the interaction without acting like a desperate pursuer trying to hunt down a prize. Instead of making a clumsy, abrupt move, you simply let the atmosphere do the talking by casually acknowledging the shared moment out loud. You look at her with a calm, warm smile and say something effortless like, "It is honestly kind of crazy how comfortable this feels between us right now." Or, "You have a really nice, grounding energy tonight." By phrasing it this way, you perform the ultimate psychological judo move. You completely remove yourself as the active agent who wants something from her. You are not the one pushing, demanding, or asking for a favor. Instead, the environment and the shared moment itself are creating the desire. You are simply stepping back, pointing out a pleasant reality that is already happening, and letting her follow her own emotions. Because women are naturally wired to follow feelings rather than cold, transactional requests, this subtle shift wipes out awkwardness, eradicates rejection entirely, and allows you to close the remaining physical distance effortlessly and smoothly.